Easy English AZ, this is Michael. After the podcast, feel free to ask us about a free lesson. My students know that I have many diverse interests and hobbies, ranging from aviation to theoretical physics, philosophy, music, formal linguistics, and computer science, with some things like mathematics and logic naturally coming along for the ride. I tend to have a very stubborn do-it-yourself attitude, and with this sort of range of knowledge, I can usually back it up. And this plays into something else that most of my students know. Namely, I have a lot of computers. Many of them rather old, and I use Linux on most of the ones that are still usable, rather than Windows. When things are going according to plan, this is fine, but sometimes it gets a little hairy when there are issues. For example, a little while back I picked up a Windows-based tablet, partly because I'd never seen Windows 8 on a tablet before, and partly because I didn't have a tablet and wanted to. Well, suffice it to say, I wasn't won over by the Windows experience. I found the virtual keyboard to be incredibly more annoying than useful, and I couldn't figure out how in the world to navigate the GUI, even though I had seen it before and was somewhat comfortable with it in a desktop setting. So I grew sick of it pretty quick and decided enough was enough. Let's put Linux on this baby. But that's when the fun really began. I had a USB drive sitting around with my Linux distro ready to go already, or so I thought. So I plugged it in and restarted the machine, naturally expecting to see the USB drive as a boot option. Nope. Turns out I had to make some special modifications to the bootloader. So I did that and I got it to boot into the installer. At this point there's no Wi-Fi functionality and the machine doesn't have any other built-in networking capability. So I have to get an Ethernet adapter for it in order to allow it to update the installation as it's going. Okay, that's working. But now booting to the internal drive doesn't work, because it has a standard bootloader. I actually still haven't fixed that one. I just modified the bootloader on the USB to point to the kernel image on the internal drive. And given all the other problems, that's good enough for now. So it boots. Finally I can use a tablet with Linux, right? Well, kind of. The touchscreen doesn't respond properly, the Wi-Fi still doesn't work. If you put it to sleep, the system crashes. There's no backlight control, so it's always on full blast, which runs the battery down faster than normal. Probably several other things I haven't mentioned. So I can't say I'd recommend the average user putting Linux on all of their devices, but as long as you have a primary workstation that's stable and does what you need reliably, it can be interesting and educational to play around with it on old or extra systems you might have lying around.
If you enjoyed this podcast, send us a message and consider trying one of our lessons. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.